right, YouTube? This is Mr. Mean coming at you this Friday, June 18th, 2021. It is currently 8:18. Tonight's a little bit of a different show. I've had such good feedback on how to be a GM and how to be a player and like tools of the trade. I got a lot of really good questions and feedback. So one of the things that I was trolling YouTube, and one of the things that I've noticed that I haven't noticed is no one's interviewed a new player that I know of. They've interviewed like women players and they've interviewed young kids, but they've never interviewed like just a person who's new to role playing that I could see. I'm sure there's videos out there, but I didn't find them. I thought I spoke to my friend Anthony, who he's going to introduce himself here in a minute, and he is in my local Pathfinder game. And I thought, wow, what a great idea to get his perspective, because he's only been doing this for about a year, and a good half of that has been COVID, so we went online, so to speak. So the whole interaction, face-to-face gaming, he only had a couple of months, and now we're back in our house, in my house, playing Pathfinder, sitting around the table. And tonight, all the players couldn't make it, Father's Day weekend, that kind of thing, holiday. So Anthony and I were free, which I don't know if that's a sad state of our lives or if we're just so cool we don't have to do anything. I'm going to go with the latter. But Anthony, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, John. Good to see you again. My name is Anthony Miller. I've worked with John for a while, working IT, and just, like John said, I'm just learning to enjoy RPGs. And excited to provide my perspective as a relatively new gamer. I'd love to see more people join up, and actually I've successfully brought at least one person into the gaming world with me, so that's exciting. It's been really rewarding so far.
Yeah, Dom never played either, right? Dom is another one of our players, which is a relative of Anthony's, believe it or not. But he's been interested in gaming, but he's never had the opportunity to get to play. So what I want to do is I want to tell a quick little story about how you kind of got into it from my point of view, and then we'll get into the questions that we put together. And Anthony is a manager in IT, so he's a people leader. I look up to him as a friend and a mentor, even though I'm technically almost old enough to be your dad. But he's a great person, and I value his opinion, and I'm tickled pink that he's a player in my game and that he enjoys playing and comes back week after week for me to torture him. But it was winter a year and a half ago, and we were walking back from lunch, and me and Chad, I think Chad is one of our coworkers, we were talking about D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, and another of our coworkers, Joshua, is also a player, and so we kind of all had this little camaraderie, and we were talking about it. And Anthony was kind of like the fifth wheel, he was quiet, he was listening. And so then typically I'm older than everybody in the group, so I let them go on ahead, and I kind of hang back, the lone rogue, the old cat. And Anthony kind of falls back and starts walking with me, and he's like, so this D&D thing, what do you do? And he starts asking me all these questions, and he was very timid, and Anthony's kind of an introvert, he's kind of a shy guy. So I take great pride in the fact that you come on the channel and expose yourself to the world like this. And it was super cool because he asked really intelligent questions. As he's a very intelligent guy. And so I was like, Anthony, I mean, I can tell you all day what it's like, but until you do it, you're just not going to get it. It's one of the things, it's like riding a bike. Someone can explain to you how to ride a bike, but until you learn how to ride a bike, you don't know what riding a bike is. And so Anthony showed up one night, and it was magic. He was hooked. I think he stayed at my house until like almost 2 o'clock in the morning talking. We talked about work stuff, we talked about gaming, we talked about life, philosophy, everything. And it was just two guys getting along on a new common ground. It was really cool. So, do you remember that conversation, Anthony?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. And actually, it's funny, if you don't mind, I'll share my side of
Sure.
that interaction as well. I remember you guys talking, and obviously, I watch Stranger Things, and so they talk about D&D on there, and I've heard about tabletop games in the past and all that kind of stuff, and so I have just a basic understanding of what it is at that point, and you guys were all talking about it, but I have no concept of how the game is played other than those portrayals in shows and movies, and just talking with you and kind of trying to understand, like, how does this play out, how does it how do you derive fun out of this, like sitting down and imagining. And I think the best example that you used in that conversation was like it's if you ever used one of those create your own adventure books, and you said it's basically that in a game, and I was like, well, I read those as a kid and really enjoyed it, and the whole time in the conversation while we were talking, I'm thinking, I'm a nerd. We're all nerds in the conversation, and I just kept thinking, like, there's that. I guess there's a stigma, around gaming, and it had me for a minute, and I was just thinking, like, I'm going to be transcending to a whole new level of nerd in joining this and trying this, and that was something I thought about, and I'm honestly, I'm so glad I did. As soon as I jumped in, it's been a blast, and I've really enjoyed every single game we've played, and I've been fortunate to have some exposure to not just Pathfinder, our weekly game, but a whole bunch of other games you've shared with us, and really enjoyed every single one.
That's awesome, and that's just a testament to how easygoing and good-natured you are. That you sit through all that torture, And I will say Dom has the same enthusiasm, and Dom is an engineer, so he's a guy who counts numbers. He looks at why things work the way they work, and it's so much fun having you two in the game because you're a pretty analytical guy as well. And so you guys, you're looking at all the angles, and it keeps me on my toes, and for a guy that, I have a plethora of games, running around in my dome up here. So sometimes the rules get a little jumbled, and you guys are great for just, keeping me on my toes and just the energy that you two bring to the game, and we added a new player, my friend Darren. And, Darren's a veteran like me. He's been doing this for 30 plus years, and, he's having a good time because he's feeding off of you and Dom's energy, and Bobby and Kale, our other two players, father and son team. Everybody has this high level, like, I went to lunch with D yesterday, and he told me that was one of the best sessions he had, and we didn't have any combat in that session. It was all role play. And so he really enjoyed it, because you don't always need to kill the monsters, kick in the door, fight the dragon. Sometimes it's all about, the shopping experience. And so he had a good time. He enjoyed the role playing and everything, and it was a lot of fun. And his character's very nonchalant and, bleh, whatever. But, he was playing his character, but he enjoyed the interactions between everybody. So we're going to jump into it here. We've got 7 questions. And so I've got your answers, and we talked about these before, so it's not like anything's a shocker, but just more for new gamers that might be watching this, or old gamers that are watching this, and you've got like maybe your kid you want to bring into the hobby, or your nephew or your niece. This might be a good video for them to watch. It might be a bit long, but we're a bunch of grognards, and you can shorten it and get to the questions. So question number 1: how long have you been playing RPGs?
When you sent me these questions, or I had to go back and look, because it feels like it's the way things have been, for so long. But it was December of 2019. When I started, so about a year and a half, like you said. But honestly, I started at just the right time because being able to play during COVID really carried me through. It's a positive thing during the week, and
you got exposed to online gaming on top of that, which you may not have necessarily been exposed to in any other environment because of COVID. So we got on Foundry, and we started playing Pathfinder on Foundry, and I think it went really well, to be honest. So that was a lot of fun. So question number 2, I think we've already addressed. How did you find RPGs? We were walking to Coney Island, downtown Duluth, and we've already said that story. So we're gonna jump to number 3, which I think is a really good one. What draws you to the hobby?
Well, I will say that the biggest thing for me is I'm really a task-based bonder. A lot of my friends I meet through work because we're kind of forged in the fire, where you're working together, you're working hard on stuff towards a common goal, and there's nothing better for that than playing tabletop games, in my opinion. I frequently think about our team and our group, and fondly, and it's been great to experience that teamwork that you don't always experience other places in life. And if you allow yourself to immerse in the game, it feels like you're sharing life and death situations with the person sitting next to you, even though you're sitting around a table. You're transported. Also, an element of it makes you feel powerful. You start out, it's maybe the progression. When I first joined, I joined mid-game, and so we were, I think, level 3 or level 4 or something like that. And so we already had a lot of stuff, and we felt powerful. But even starting the new game that we just started, the new campaign, starting at level 1, you feel your weaknesses. I think in every adventure or every session that we were in, somebody died, and me as my cleric had to heal him to get him back up. And so you feel your weaknesses, but as you get more powerful and conquer more and more challenges, you feel that power, but you also it incorporates the vulnerability that we all feel in life. That dice roll, even if you have power strike and a great axe like our fighter does, where you just expect him to be able to take out whatever you encounter, that can still roll a 1.
Yeah, and it doesn't always happen. So just like work, you expect something to go left, and it goes right, and now you have to adjust to it. So yeah, that's a good thing. I am going to interject one second. I think we're having a minor technical difficulty. Your camera is very stuttery, so I don't know if you can kill some processors on your laptop.
Oh, give me 1 second. I can try.
It's like you're very jittery and your words aren't matching, and it's very disconcerting. So, but I'll interject while you're playing with your processes there. Anybody who says role-playing games can't affect real life has never played a role-playing game, because I attribute my ability to speak in front of people, my ability to handle critical situations, a lot of it to A, my military training, and B, my ability to play role-playing games and to deal with those fantastical situations that you would never ever really be in. You're never going to fight a dragon in real life, but you may be in a combat situation, or you may be in a boardroom with some hostile people that you have to verbally, de-escalate. And I think role-playing games are a way to simulate that reality and deal with it. Just like we do training, like we have our emergency training and stuff for the work that we do. You do those drills. Why? So that when the real thing happens, you react, instead of panic, right? And so role-playing games are a way to simulate that. And you may not even realize that you're doing it, but when you're playing a role-playing game, you have to talk to a group of people. Average group is 4 4 players and a GM. We have 5 players and a GM, so we've got 6 people that you're speaking to 5 of them at any given time. And so in a lot of cases you don't know these people. Like you didn't know Darren. Darren didn't know you. Dom didn't know Bobby. Cale doesn't know any of you guys. Cale's a 14-year-old young man. So we're all learning. Living is a learning process, in my opinion, and you never stop. And so the great thing about role-playing games and even tabletop board games like Monopoly, you have to critically think. You have to make decisions that will have repercussions. And just like in real life. And so I think role-playing games are a gateway to help you. For me, I suffer from PTSD, and so my stress bottles up, and then it angrily explodes if I don't get some sort of release. And it's taken me a couple of years to work on it, but I found that my release is doing this, my YouTube channel, and role-playing games. That's my release. That's how I keep my sanity. So yeah, it definitely has an effect on people. And there's a number of organizations out there that are using D&D and other tabletop role-playing games to deal with PTSD in all forms, like firefighters. Certain corporate workers suffer from PTSD. High-volume construction workers, demolitionists and stuff like that, all suffer from some form of PTSD, just not military people. So I didn't want to get on that rant, but it was a good topic that bridges that. That role-playing games and real life are kind of similar. So the next question is, what do you like? Oh, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say, exactly like you said, it's definitely relevant. And I think, beyond that as well, for people that, just your everyday person that doesn't suffer from those type of things. In general, it improves like assertiveness, decision making, and teamwork,
and listening.
I think that's listening.
Listening is a key skill that a lot of people do not possess. They're used to talking and just assume that people hear what they say. And that's not always the case. So you have to listen. You have to critically think and critically listen. And it's one of the great things. I'm blessed with the kind of voice that people just they hear. I've never, no one's ever said, "I'm sorry, what did you say?" I've got that resonance in my voice that people hear me loud and clear. And being a police officer for 10 years didn't hurt that. And then of course being in the military before that didn't hurt either. So and you have to have that ability to talk to people. And I know some people are just horribly introverted and or people phobic. I forgot what the term is, but they clam up and I one young lady was in my group in California, and she was like that. She was, if any more than 2 people in a room, she would just sit in the corner and not say a word, and her outlet became RPGs, and she found her voice. And so that was so cool to see and know that I was a part of that, so that was kind of an uplifting story. Yeah. And now she's a big time office. She speaks at corporate events and stuff, and she helps people, she does like Kaizen events, for like, process improvement, where she's talking to sometimes as much as 30, 40 people. So it's super cool. Yeah.
Wow.
So question number 4 is, what do you like most about RPGs?
What do I like most about RPGs? It's really every week it's different. It's the unpredictable excitement that the game brings. Even if we have combat. Like last week, we had a no combat session, like you're saying. When you mentioned, you said, I don't know if we're gonna have combat next session. There's that little bit of you in the back of your head. They're like, I just want to hit something, but I didn't even notice. Like the end of the session came, and we had so much fun that it just wasn't. You don't even notice. But it's it could go either way. The story is being told in real time. It's not set. You can't plan everything you're going to do and have it go perfectly almost ever, which is fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed getting together with friends, meeting new people. Like, it's been great to meet Darren. I feel like you know, I feel like I've known him for a long time, and we've only, I think, played two sessions in person and a handful online.
Right.
But yeah, a good friend. So yeah.
That's the nice thing about gamers too.
Then,
is they're very personable.
Yeah. Well, they get to be, like you're saying. I think it really draws people out of your shell because it rewards you. Well, in the way that you've GM'd for us, you reward people for coming out of their shell and taking risks and playing their character and stepping out, and it really encourages you to do so. Like, I remember my first few sessions, even, I've stood in front of rooms of executives and been under high pressure situations and handled myself appropriately in the workplace. But walking into that session, it's new and it's something different, and so there's a little tentativeness and shyness, even on my part, and you drew me out and encouraged me to play, and also called me out, like when there's things that come up where you're like, hey, take a look at this or think about this next time, and gave me advice, and that's a huge way to improve your game, is to have a good GM. So
thank you. Yeah.
There you go.
So
the legend here. So.
The legend. I don't know about that. What do you like least?
Take tonight. I mean, I enjoy chatting with you. This is fun, but
it's not the same.
The scheduling, is kind of the one thing. It's just you get excited. We've had a few weeks where somebody gets sick, or there's just something will inevitably come up. Everybody's got lives, and as you get busy, especially as we get into summer, like you mentioned, you're like, oh, we're getting into summer. There's just, everybody's got vacations or other things planned, and that just never conveniently lines up where everybody has the same weekend that they're going to be out of town. So we miss a couple sessions here and there. So that's the tough part, is you enjoy it so much and you look forward to it, and you almost learn to depend on it as like an outlet, and then you miss a session or something. And I have a funny story about that, actually. We had missed a couple sessions, I think, because I think one was I was out of town or something, and then Bobby or somebody else was out of town, and there was a third session. We were all getting geared up, and Dominic and I had been calling each other, and you and I had been talking to each other, and we were all getting worked up about the next week, and we were excited to get back and play, and it got canceled on the day before or something like that. And, Dominic called me and said, it's time for a therapy session. so we talked it out and tried to carry each other through.
Yeah, so that's the hardest part.
That's the biggest thing.
That is the hardest part for me as a GM, is it's like herding cats, because you have children, I have a child, Bobby has 2 kids, Dom has a small child at home, and they don't obey any schedule, and so we have to. This is a hobby first and foremost. It's what we do for fun. We don't have to do it, and so it's sometimes becomes very aggravating. When you're trying, you want to play, you're excited, and then someone cancels, and you're like, okay, well, we can still play, and then someone else cancels, and then you're like, okay, I think we can make it, and then another person cancels, and you're like, no. Yeah. I've always my 1 second. My analogy is when we were kids, we had all the time in the world but no money to buy these games. Then we became adults, and now we have the money to buy the games, but we don't have the time to play them. So it's just the universe kicking us in the crotch.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, you were going to say?
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say that, and we've found a way around that with, having a secondary game or an off game, or on the weeks that we don't play Pathfinder, we try to play something else. And that's actually been beneficial, because it's like, well, my only exposure when we first started was Pathfinder, and so then we tried, some Mutant Chronicles and some of those other games, and it's been fun. I've enjoyed every single one. I've never regretted playing any session that we've played, and even I think there was one session, it was just you, Dom, and I, and we played for like 3 hours, and all we were doing was making characters for a game. And we're like, oh,
that was Black
we'll play
Iron.
this next week or the next time. And I don't even think we did, but we had fun that whole night playing, just making characters.
And talking about the concepts. And you know, that's the thing, you know, and I've seen going to game conventions where that's all it is. And I've seen, you know, 12, 13, 8, 9-year-old kids do the same exact thing. And they're a little more animated, a little more energetic than we would be. But the process is the same. The enjoyment is the same. They're having fun. They're being silly. They're, you know, whatever. But it's fun. And you know, the worst day of gaming is better than the best day of work, as the old saying goes. You know, so if you get to, you know, even if you just sit there on the couch and you open up the book and you're just reading it, and the kids are playing, you know, and they're not, I don't want to say bothering you, but they're self-sufficient. You know, like my little guy's, you know, 4.5. And he's become very self-sufficient. He plays by himself. I mean, he has his times where he wants mommy and daddy, but he knows daddy's old, and I'm not getting off the couch. And so he'll go get his train tracks, and he'll put them all together, and he's playing for 2 hours, you know, and so that I have time to relax or whatever, you know. So, and then there's times where I'll play with him, you know, and he's like, "Can you leave me alone? You know, I'm having fun playing with my trains, you know." So it goes both ways, but yeah, it's you need that therapy session sometimes. So, what are you looking forward to from learning from RPGs, playing RPGs? What's your takeaway?
Well, I would say, you know, I guess from like a practical standpoint, we kind of touched on this before, but it's just another way to practice your decision making in a basically, you know, there's no consequences. There's consequences in game. There's no real consequences. So you can take additional risks. You can make decisions that you wouldn't really make in real life. So you kind of can test some of those things in your mind. You know, it improves your assertiveness as I've gotten into the game. My ability to make decisions and you know, be decisive in moments in real life and in gaming life has improved. And then also teamwork. You know, you one of the stories that you had told before I came on was like you had a barbarian in one of your groups that they were in negotiations, like diplomatic negotiations or something, and he raged or something in the middle. We've laughed about this 100 times, but that's a perfect example of, and then everybody else tries to fix the problem, and that, you know, speaks to the unpredictability of the game. But our best successes in our campaigns have been when everybody knows everybody's abilities, and when you're firing on all cylinders, and it just feels like you're unstoppable because everybody's all working together. So that teamwork, learning how you fit in, and then, you know, it improves your ability to do that as well, I believe. And then just from a fun standpoint, it's I have no exposure to fantasy worlds or anything like this, and so learning and growing my own imagination is a fun thing as well.
Yeah, it's exposing you to genres that you may not have necessarily been exposed to before, because we've played. Yeah. You know, and this will segue into, you know, what's your favorite, which I already know the answer, but you've played Pathfinder with me quite a bit now. You've played Mutant Chronicles. We've played a couple sessions of Mutant Chronicles. We've played Black Iron. Well, we didn't really play. We made characters. And then my friend Darren, who's in our group, is going to run Delta Green for us one night. So, because I know Bobby's got some not vacation, but he's got some camping sessions coming up with his son, because he's a troop leader for Boy Scouts, and so he's got to be gone certain weekends. And so Darren has stepped up that we're going to get to play Delta Green, which you have no experience with because it's the Call of Cthulhu, which is, Gothic horror, so to speak, the great old ones. But it's in a modern day setting where you're playing some form of government agent. So you could be a scientist, you could be a statistician, you could be a border patrol agent, you could be a police officer, you could be a military spec ops guy. You can make almost any kind of along that line type of character. So you could be an IT guy that works for the FBI. You could be a forensic investigator. So you could kind of make Anthony Miller as an FBI forensics investigator. Where you do data criminology, and stuff like that. So yeah, and then you're dealing with things that don't follow the laws of physics and reality in our realm. So. That's going to be interesting to see how you and Dom take that. Now, in all fairness, I've never played this game myself, but I've played many Call of Cthulhu-esque games, that are in that same kind of genre. So it's going to be interesting to see the three of us, or, if more play, how we adapt to that and how we work as a team, So, and I think Darren's going to have some pre-gens.
I'm excited to play alongside you as a player, and also experience another GM as well. Like you,
yeah, and Darren's a really good GM.
Played, so.
Yeah, and he goes for the more normal things, like he's not into running superhero games. He has no interest in that. Fantasy games run more like Roman era. Or he does do high fantasy, but like there'll be very little magic in it, like. You won't get a magic sword, or it'll be very rare if you do. So it's very low magic, or he plays very realistic simulation type games like Mythras is a percentage-based game, and the combat is very detailed. Like one combat between 2 guys, 3 guys can take all night. But if you're into that, and that's the great thing about role-playing games is there's something for everybody, and it's just finding your niche. I'm lucky. I would say I'm different from the average person, that average gamer, because I like a plethora of games. I like all genres. I love westerns. Horror is my least favorite out of all of them. But I love superheroes. I love high fantasy. I love dark fantasy. I love low fantasy. I love cyberpunk. Apocalyptic. All that kind of stuff. So you hopefully by gaming with me, you've been exposed to a lot of different types of games, because that's my thing. I wanna play all of these. And 9 out of 10 gaming groups don't want to do that. They want to play one, like Bobby and Kale. They don't want to play any other games. They just want to play Pathfinder. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I have a lot of money tied up on all this crap. I want to use it, And so it's nice that, like, you and Dom are like, yeah, we'll play anything. And Darren's like that. Darren will try anything once, because Darren's like me, is a firm believer. Don't say you don't like it if you haven't tried it. How can you say you don't like it if you've never, played it? Like, so it's one of those things that, and you may play Delta Green and go, that's not for me, but at least and you can say, yeah, I played it, mechanics were okay, but the setting, it didn't jive with me, or I don't like that, the unknown kind of whatever. Maybe the supernatural is not your cup of tea, but that, so you don't have to play those games,
Sure.
So that's the nice part.
Well, yeah, so far I haven't hit something I didn't enjoy. And honestly, it's, like going back to what we were talking about before, I think the getting together with friends is half the fun. And so you just won't regret playing anything. Maybe like you're saying, maybe you won't like a setting or something like that. But I really enjoyed every session we played. As to like what my favorite RPG is, I really like Pathfinder. We've had a blast on that. And I would say that even though we've only played, I think, 1 or 2 sessions, I would say Mutant Chronicles is probably probably tied for first. That session that we played, I just that's probably the most immersed I've ever been.
Yeah.
Like it was realistic enough where I started to get some dread built up because my character was starting to panic and stuff like that.
Seeing
and I kind of
things
let
that weren't
myself
there.
feel that, like, how would I feel if I was really in that situation? Yeah. And like that, there was like an old lady that was
a creepy old lady in a wheelchair.
Room
She kept telling you were going to die.
Yes, yeah.
And Dom didn't see her.
Yeah. So I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
I just really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that now you're a veteran, you've got about a year and a half, coming up on 2 years, actually, a year and a half. What's your advice to new gamers? Like if your daughter comes to you and says, "Dad, I want to play a role playing game," what would you tell her?
Oh, 100%. So I would say for me, don't let others, like, don't let what other people think of you hold you back. Like if you're worried, like when I said at the beginning of this conversation, I'm going to be transcending to a whole nother level of nerd here. That's awesome to me now. Like I have met so many people now, even at work, and then just out. Like I found out both of my brother-in-laws, or two of my other brother-in-laws, have played games, and so we have another way to bond and talk things over, stuff like that. And just don't let any stigmas or anything like that hold you back. Like if somebody is gonna look down on you for that, you don't want to be associated with them. Also, I would say let yourself get immersed in the world while playing. Like immerse yourself in the game. Let yourself imagine what's going on. That's kind of one, I guess. And the other thing I had listed out was like don't get hung up on the logistics. Enjoy the story.
Yeah.
So there's rules in the game. There's rolling dice, making character sheets, looking at numbers, all this kind of other stuff. But like the advice you've given me is read the book, get to know your character, ask all the questions. Like I know Dominic was texting you a whole bunch, like asking you questions about how do I do this, what do I do here, and once you get into the flow and you know kind of what you're supposed to be doing, you've done your prep ahead of time and you look through things, those sessions where you just know what you're doing as you get into it, obviously when you're new it takes a little bit to get there, but if you focus on it and you take the time to know what you're doing, it allows you to immerse yourself and experience the game like you're actually in your character within your mind.
My advice
awesome.
to new gamers,
been the most fun I've had there.
Yeah, my advice to new gamers is come with an open mind. Don't worry about the mechanics. Your fellow players and the GM or the DM or whatever, storyteller, whatever they're calling themselves, will help teach you. And if it's something you're into, your level of learning skyrockets, right? If I give you, the newest expansion of Pathfinder because you're excited about Pathfinder, you're going to read that book with enthusiasm. If I give you the latest IBM server update, tech manual, you're going to be like, oh, I got to read this, unless you're a diehard techie, and I was for years, and I didn't even enjoy reading those books, So, or the latest Oracle, fixes. You're like, oh, I don't want to read this, So, what we do for fun is just that. It's fun, And so if you go into it with an open mind and you don't stress, you put, you put this, slam this, inch rule book on the table, and this is the digest size. You slam this thing. There you go. You slam this thing on the table in front of a new player, and they look at it and they go, "Oh my God, I got to read all of this." No, you don't. You only need to read the section that pertains to you, and anything else is gratis. Anything you want to read, is up to you. You want to read about the world lore? Go for it, but you don't have to. That's what the GM is for. That's what the other players are for. The more you do read, though, and the more you immerse yourself in it, the more the game becomes vibrant, the more the story becomes a little more real, and you can tell some really immersive stories if the players are all into it. And I'm not going to lie, I feel totally blessed that I have the gaming group that I have, because you guys are all awesome, and I mean, I am so excited for Friday nights. When Dom sent that text message yesterday saying that he had plans with his father, I was like, maybe I could buy Anthony a 6-pack of soda for him to knock his dad off, And then I'm like, well, maybe that might be a little too much, but Anthony might do it. So there was that, the good and evil, the Mr. Mean and the Mr. Nice were trying to balance out. But it is that, emotional letdown when you're like, I can't play. But then when you do get to play, you really cherish it, because we are adults and we all have family and we all have lives and we have responsibilities. So when we do get to, let our hair down and sit here and play these, overgrown kid games, it's a lot of fun. It's a stress relief, and it's like you said, the camaraderie. I enjoy opening up my house for you guys to come over and hang out for 3 to 5 hours on average. Everybody gets to the house at around 7. We shoot the shit for roughly an hour. Here and there we get some prep work done and stuff, and then we usually play pretty solid from 8 to midnight. So a good 4 hours of gaming, maybe 3.5 if we take a break, because somebody's wife likes to make really delicious, tasty snacks and send them with you. And I'm not mad at her, by the way. I love her. You can tell her. And my wife loves her too. That peanut butter pie that she sent you over with was fabulous. We ate the whole thing. So good. Yeah, the gaming is it's really good, man. And it's I'm so glad you took that step. And I remember that day vividly, walking to the hot dog place, Coney Island. And you were so timid in asking your questions, and you wouldn't look at me. You were looking down at the ground, and you were like just asking these roundabout. And it was like I was just in my head. I was like, do I offer to let him play, or do I just string him along and see if he'll ask? And you weren't going to ask. I don't think you would have. I really don't. If I'd have just blown you off, you'd have been like, oh, all right, well, you might have, because we started becoming really good friends. Yeah. I think not, on a separate tangent, my work ethics won you over. You knew I was a guy that could get the job done, and you didn't have to worry about, you didn't have to babysit me. You could just let me go, and I would go do stuff. And so I think you eventually would have approached me and said, hey, but I did offer, and you accepted, and I didn't know what to expect either, because there's that, and I think we even had the conversation before the first session at work. I was like, look, this is not work related. This is fun. Whatever happens in the game is not personal. If I kill your character, it's not, me getting back at you for you yelling at me at work. That's the story. That's separate. When you cross the threshold, you're no longer my boss. You're my friend. I'm inviting you into my house. Respect that. I will respect it. And it's a partnership, right? It's a verbal contract that we said, work is work. If you got to chew my ass out at work because of something dumb I did, I fully expect you to do it, right? I can luckily say in the 2 years that I've worked for you, though, I don't think you've ever had to chew me out. I don't even think we've had a conversation of don't do that, which is awesome.
Yeah, other than those 10 times you paid me not to say anything about, I
thought we weren't going to talk about that,
Oh, yeah, well,
now I gotta have you. Now I gotta put a hit out on you. Is your life insurance paid up? Your cleric is going to die.
Well, I think. Oh, great! Yeah, I think one other thing too is you definitely saw my tentativeness, and the other thing you said to me was come try it. There's no commitment. Like if you come try a session, see if you like it, and then
no harm, no foul.
Decide.
Yeah,
and then decide if you want to stay on.
And you stayed at my house till like 2 o'clock in the morning. So. I had to kick you out.
Yeah.
Go home.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave, but you can't stay here.
One other thing. Yeah. One other fun thing. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, the purple
Inside
dice
jokes are fun. My pink dice that I got from Bobby and John when I forgot my dice. one day.
He
So
never
it's just another
as
thing.
yet to forget his
you,
dice.
You become part of a team.
Yeah, and that was fun. I think we each bought you a set, didn't we? Yeah, we both.
These are my pink ones, and I got the purple ones. Yeah.
And then I went in November of last year. I went down to Louisiana, and I was in the Dollar Tree, and I saw the role-playing dice for $1, and they were cool. I mean, and I was like, oh, I gotta buy. First of all, I didn't expect to find them in a Dollar Tree, and Sulphur, Louisiana. That was just a miracle right there, because down there, if you play role-playing games, you are the devil. It's getting better, but you know what I mean. So to see that in the store was like, so I bought 2 boxes. I bought one for you and one for Dom. Because you can never have enough dice. You got to have multitudes of dice. And so, well, I'm going to say we've been prattling on for over 40 minutes. I'm going to say that having you as a player is an absolute joy. I'm not going to say has been, because that would indicate that it's coming to an end, and we've got many, many more sessions to go. And so I look forward to growing as a GM and a player alongside you, and I hope that you continue to enjoy this hobby with me, and alongside me. For those that don't know, I no longer work for Anthony. I took a position with another manager outside of IT, so I'll be working in the procurement department as a warehouse manager. And I'm super excited. I start my new job on Monday. I'm not going to lie. I turned in all my IT equipment today, and I got a little misty-eyed, more for the fact that I wouldn't have an admin account anymore to do things. I got to call the help desk now. Crap. No. But it's I didn't want to leave, but I felt it was a decision I had to make for my career and to better my life, and I think it's a smart decision. And
it's the right call, John. Congratulations.
Well, on top of that, I get every other Friday off, so I have more time to prep for the game.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's a benefit of working in that environment, and that'll give me more time to work with you guys too, to grow your characters and do stuff and to work on other games. I would love to revisit the Mutant Chronicle game. And Darren, who's new to our group, is a huge fan of Mutant Chronicles. So there is a very good chance. Yes, there's a very good chance that we will get to play some more Mutant Chronicles. So it is definitely something on the horizon. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Just I'll echo your feelings that I'm excited to continue playing and growing as a player alongside you. I've learned a lot, and we've talked even about me possibly GMing at some point, and I've learned a lot from you along those lines, and we'll see if it happens someday.
Yeah, I'm looking
really
forward
enjoying being a player and getting some experience right now. And you've been a great mentor in that way to me as well. So I thank you for your experience and your time with me, helping me grow in that area.
Yeah, well, every new player is just it's a good thing, and every new GM or aspiring GM is even better, because no matter how good this game is, it can't jump off the shelf and run itself. You need people like me and hopefully people like you that are willing to put the time and effort in to run a game. And I'll tell parents out there, role-playing games are great, because if your kids spend their allowance and their disposable income, they won't have money for drugs. This is a $40 book right here. So get them into the hobby. Save yourself. Let them play sports, and then on the off season they play role playing games, and they'll always be poor, and you won't have to worry about them doing bad things. So
there you go.
Yeah. So. All right,
Genius
Anthony.
Parenting advice.
That's right, parenting advice 101. See, you got more than you bargained for. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It was very kind of you. I pitched the idea to Anthony months ago, right? And I had some technical difficulties with my new Mac. It doesn't have the right audio stuff to be able to use OBS. There's other tools that I could use, but I don't. OBS is free, and I know OBS, so But I thank you so much for taking the time, and your wife allowing you to take the time. Although you didn't send me a pie, so I'm a little upset. Although you didn't actually come over, you could have sent me a virtual pie. That's a bad joke. It's a dad joke.
Next week or something, I guess.
Yeah, it was pretty. Next week, yeah. Well, I will say you usually bring the snacks, so we can't complain. For you aspiring players, remember, bribing your GM with snacks is a good thing. They'll remember the guy who brought cookies or the gal that brought cookies.
That's best advice. Yeah.
That is best advice right there. So, I'll wrap it up in saying, thank you. I hope everybody watching this gleaned a little something from it. If you have questions or comments, put them down in the notes. I'm sure Anthony will read them. I'll be able to read them and post them to Anthony if he doesn't see them. And anything we can do to help grow this awesome hobby, that's what Mr. Mean's here for, and awesome guys like Anthony. So, without further ado, peace and hair grease. Remember, Mr. Mean says, be nice.